Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting is being televised live on ACPS TV and streamed on ACPS YouTube channel. General information and protocols for the meeting are posted on the sign by the doorway as you enter the room, so please make sure you read those if you have not already. Please pause for the invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies. Being ever mindful of your guidance, stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That takes us to item 2.03, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve minutes as written. Second.
Do I have consensus? Yes. Thank you. That takes us to item 2.04, establish agenda order.
Madam President, I move that the board add to tonight's agenda item 6.05, ratification of the negotiated agreement between the Board of Education and the Association of Educational Leaders, and hear it before item 6.01.
Second.
Do I have consensus? Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Dr. Tobin.
Yes.
Now we need to establish the
I'm
agenda
sorry,
as
yes.
amended.
So we need to establish agenda order as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, do I have consensus? Thank you. And item 2.05, recognitions, we have no recognitions tonight, which brings us to section 3, public comments on agenda items. And before public comment, I will read the following statement. This is one of the opportunities that the board provides to hear the views and receive the advice of community members. The members of this board appreciate hearing from interested citizens. As appropriate, we will refer your concerns to the superintendent for follow-up by his staff. The board will hear public comment from up to 10 total speakers, combination of virtual and in-person, per agenda item, excluding personnel items, reports, and recognitions, during a single public comment section in the early portion of the meeting. The board will hear public comment from up to 10 total speakers on items not on the agenda, excluding any student-specific or personnel items, near the end of the meeting. The link to register to comment before the board opened at 3 p.m. on the Friday prior to this meeting. Registration closed at noon on the Monday prior to this meeting. Speakers may sign up for no more than 2 agenda items, but only once on any individual agenda item. For any item with more than 10 registered speakers, the board will employ a lottery process to select the speakers. Registrants who secure a slot to speak were notified by email at the email address they provided when they registered. All speakers will be allotted 2 minutes and must address the specifics of the agenda item for which they sign up. No speaker substitutions will be permitted. If your name is called and you are not present, we will move on to the next speaker. For anyone who was not selected to speak at today's meeting, you may email your comments to the board office at boardoffice@aacps.org. While we encourage public input on policies, programs, and practices within the purview of this board and the school system, this is not the proper forum to address specific student or employee matters or to comment on matters that do not relate to public education in Anne Arundel County. We encourage everyone to utilize existing dispute resolution processes as appropriate. I remind everyone that any inappropriate personnel remarks or other behavior that disrupts or interferes with the conduct of this meeting are out of order. Persons using language that is threatening or promotes violence against members of this body or Anne Arundel County Public School employees are subject to legal penalties. Persons who otherwise disrupt or disturb this meeting will not be allowed to continue their remarks and will be asked to leave the meeting. It is not the board's general practice to engage in question and answer session with speakers. For the record, please give your name before speaking. Handouts should be given to the board assistant. I ask that speakers observe the 2-minute clock. A yellow light will shine when you have 30 seconds remaining, and a tone will sound when your time has expired. Please conclude your remarks when you hear the tone. If you continue after your time has expired, the microphone will be turned off. It could also be turned off if a speaker addresses specific student or employee matters or are commenting on matters not related to public education in Anne Arundel County. Thank you. So that brings us to public comment on agenda items in person. And I have, speaking on item 6.03, policy revision, second reading, opening and patriotic exercises, code IKA, Ms. Ruth Robertson? Robertson. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Roberson. I'm in favor of the updated opening and patriotic exercises policy to include that the American flag shall be displayed in every school building and in each classroom while schools are in session. It is already state law and Anne Arundel County policy to open the class with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. But many schools and teachers have taken it upon themselves to remove the American flag from their classrooms. It is a shame we have to fight to fly our national symbol in public government, American taxpayer-funded spaces. The Stars and Stripes is a symbol of unity. When we say the Pledge of Allegiance, we acknowledge our natural rights derived from God, enshrined in the Constitution and paid for in the blood of our forefathers. Yesterday, we observed the 79th anniversary of D-Day. The American flag was a symbol of hope for those liberated from Nazi tyranny. It was a symbol of a grateful nation, draping the coffins of thousands of young men, sacrificing their lives that their families and countrymen could live free from an ideology that divided and punished people for their race, religion, and ethnicity. The one thing we should all take pride in identifying as is Americans. I'm reminded of a story of two Vietnam prisoners of war, Colonel Fred Cherry, a black Air Force pilot, and Lieutenant J.G. Porter Halliburton, a young white Navy pilot. Colonel Cherry was shot down by the Vietnamese and severely injured. He was thrown in a 10-foot by 10-foot cell with the Southern Halliburton. The Vietnamese thought putting white and black men together would be further torture and expected the men to be hostile to one another. Instead, Halliburton demanded treatment for Cherry's injuries. He tended to his open wounds, bathed him, fed him, and nursed him back to health. In a book about the ordeal, Two Souls Indivisible, Cherry said, "It was only he and I in the cell. Had he not done anything, no one would have ever known. He did it because he was a decent human being, and I was another human being with him." Halliburton said, "Our friendship grew because of our common bonds. We were both Americans." The pledge and respect for the flag reminds us our country flourished because we are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The flag represents the ideal, one we can't take for granted. Let us remember, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that concludes our public comment on agenda items for this evening. This brings us to Section 4, reports. Item 4.01, the CRASC report. There is no CRASC report tonight. They will be reporting on the 26th. Okay. Item 4.02, PTA report. We do not have a PTA report tonight. So that brings us to item 4.03, the president's report. I'll try to be as quick as I can, but again, there's a lot to talk about this time. First, I would like to make special note of someone who has served on our ethics panel for a very long time, Mr. Conrad Wason, who will be ending his time on our ethics panel. And as he retires, I wanted to just give a thank you to him and read a little bit about him so everyone's aware of what he has done and what he's given to this county. A lifelong resident of Anne Arundel County, Mr. Wason graduated from Southern High School in 1979 and Salisbury University, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration. He served on the Board of Education of Anne Arundel County from 2002 to 2007 and the Anne Arundel County Economic Development Corporation from 1999 to 2002. Mr. Wason is affiliated with the Chesapeake chapter of Associated Builders and Contractors, where he has served as National Board Member, Chapter President, and Chairman of the Joint Legislative Committee representing more than 1,000 contractors statewide. Mr. Wason is currently Secretary of Treasurer of Hopkins & Wason and a Managing Partner of Wason Land Holdings. He has served as an ethics panel member since July of 2008. We are very grateful to him for his long service, and as he decides to step down from this position, I just wanted to note his service and thank him.
Dr. Tobin, if
Yes.
I may. If I may.
Sure.
Mr. Wason is one of my South County folks, and so what's not in that bio is the hundreds of thousands of dollars that he has raised through the Southern Alumni Association for our students to have an opportunity to go to trade school, to the community college, off to other four-year opportunities. and has been unwavering in his commitment for education. He is that type of community person that is there. He shows up and he helps out, and he's very humble about it. And there's many, many times where he has been that person in the background of how did we get there? How did we get that? And his commitment to AACPS is not sitting in these very seats that we have, and helping guide and ensure that we conduct ourselves in an ethical manner. And so I would be remiss if I did not say thank you on behalf of our residents. And I know that he's not going anywhere as it relates to continuing to help and serve our community. And he will be greatly missed. And I thank him personally as well as on behalf of my district.
Thank you. Yes. Well, we hope he enjoys whatever time he gets back from not serving on the ethics panel now. That brings me to some events I've been privileged to attend over the past couple of weeks that I want to highlight. On May 25th, Dr. Bedell and I were privileged to attend the graduation celebration for the Teen Parent Alternative Program, which is an extraordinary program, which has been based in Annapolis for a long time, but thanks to some work Ms. Ellis spearheaded along with the Palmers and Kingdom Care, has also expanded out to Odenton, and 3 remarkable young women graduated, got their high school diplomas this year while being parents and receiving all this incredible supports. So that is always a wonderful celebration, and we congratulate them. On May 26th, Mr. Silkworth and I were privileged to attend the Middle School Unified Showcase at Old Mill High School, which on a beautiful sunny day was wonderful. And we got to see a lot of amazing kids enjoying the day together, supporting each other, having fun, and generally doing what you want to see young people doing together and supporting their friends. On May 30th, Ms. Corkadell and I were able to attend the Future Farmers of America Awards banquet, where again we saw a bunch of incredible young people receive all sorts of awards and scholarships as they continue their incredible work with Dr. Eccles and her staff down at Southern, but also there's a Cat North program now that too is expanding. And it was a pleasure to see the students from both programs there accepting awards. And we were lucky enough to get to be part of a very delicious dinner as well.
And that actually is mild in comparison. They ran into actually a little hiccup, and so you did not get the full Monty. So you'll have to come back next year. I gotta say, because there's always lots of goodies and surprises, new and traditional.
Well, it was a joyful evening, and thanks to our partners out at Homestead Gardens for hosting that. On June 3rd, Ms. Schalheim and I were privileged to be a part of a group of AACPS teachers, staff, and students marching in the Pride Parade in Annapolis, which was a truly joyful event. And every time when people saw the AACPS banner, cheers went up along the way. And so that was, thank you to all the staff who put in a lot of work to make that possible, and the students and staff who came out. I had the great joy of attending on June 5th the performance of the Apex Commercial Band at Rams Head on stage in Annapolis, which was stunning. That performance was absolutely amazing. A shout out to Mr. Kaufman and all the staff of the Apex program. It was incredible. If you hear them playing anywhere near you, go. Among their lead vocalists is the same young woman who sang for us a few weeks ago, and her talent is emblematic of the talent in the group. So I highly I highly recommend attending their performance, and it was a great joy for me. So that brings me to the close of the president's report. And that takes us to item 4.04, Equity Committee Report. Mr. McGrath.
Well, thank you, Dr. Tobin. At the last Equity Committee meeting, we met to further discuss the proposed board Student Equity in Action Spotlight. Throughout the discussion, we had a few tweaks to the language or the criteria of the award, which will be further discussed at the next meeting. But the committee looks forward to the next meeting of the Equity Committee, where it looks like we'll move the Student Equity in Action Spotlight to the full board in time for my last meeting. So before I go out to the beach for my retirement. No, I'm kidding.
All right, that brings us to thank you, Ms. McGrath. That brings us to item 4.05, Policy Committee Report. Follow that, Ms. Den.
I cannot.
Yeah.
I recognize you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, board members. Yesterday, we held the policy meeting via Zoom. In one of the topic of discussion, which is going to come and be presented at the next meeting, it will not come out of committee, was policy IFF, which talks about special education programs for students with disabilities. It is an update of the policy, but more so modernize the policy, which I think the work that we're going to take time to put in that is not only beneficial, but I think it will be effective and it will benefit our children and our students here in Anne Arundel County, because we're going to start at toddlers. So I'm really excited about seeing that come out of committee. It's a little bit more work that has to be done, but Ms. Wilson and the policy committee is up to the challenge. And so I think you guys will be pretty happy with that. And with that, I would like to just say a thank you to a special guest that we had yesterday, Ms. McGowan, who has put love, blood, sweat, all the other sweat and tears into making sure that this policy represents the children and students that will be impacted by here in Anne Arundel County. And so I just do want to say thank you very much for all the work that you've put into this policy. That's it.
All right, thank you. Item 4.06, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening to those in attendance and those who are viewing this board meeting online. We are in the midst of graduation season, and it has been a joyous time celebrating with our class of 2023, as celebrations that have included the first in-person graduation for our virtual academy and the first ever graduation for Crofton High School. In a span of 13 days ending next week, we will award diplomas to nearly 5,600 students at 19 schools. We are proud of each and every one of our students, and I thank everyone who has helped to plan these amazing celebrations. I have been extremely impressed with the smoothness and the attention to detail that has taken place for each and every single one of these commencements. To all watching or listening, if you haven't seen these celebrations or have one coming up, you don't want to miss. They are all streamed live at www.aacps.org/YouTube. So those are all being archived. Speaking of celebrations, we have another member of our team who has been recognized nationally for his work. Regional Assistant Superintendent Chris Truffer has earned one of 6 Unity Awards from PACER's National Bullying Prevention Center. Mr. Truffer has been a key force in our school system's anti-bullying work and is certainly deserving of this award. Congratulations to Mr. Truffer. Spring was another, oh yeah, you're right. National award, pretty huge. Spring was another great season for AACPS athletics, with 9 of our teams capturing state championships. Savannah Park's boys lacrosse team won an amazing 7th straight championship, and our county brought home 4 state titles in unified bocce. I always merge that, bocce. We also had several individual state champions. We should all be very, very proud of the efforts that take place in our athletics program. And you can see on the slide the schools that have brought home from tennis. with Broadneck, girls lacrosse, Broadneck and Severna Park, boys lacrosse, Broadneck and Severna Park, and then the 4 schools with bocce, Broadneck, Crofton, Severna Park, and Southern. So congratulations to all of those students and our individual track athletes who obtained state championships. Last week, we announced the expansion of our EE elementary program to 25 remaining schools who don't have it at this time. As this board knows, we have been trying to expand this innovative program to all elementary schools for many years, but have been unable to obtain the funding. We can't wait any longer. However, we have reallocated some positions from central office and changed our staffing model to make this program available at all elementary schools beginning next year. And there are several reasons for this. When we talk about inequities that we may have internally created in trying to do good and not being able to move as fast as we need to, this is an opportunity to try to address some of those internal inequities by looking at things differently. Secondly, because of the blueprint law that calls for more planning time across our schools, now being able to have EE across the county will also get us ahead of schedule as it pertains to some of the requirements with Blueprint. So I want to thank our team that came together to take a different look at this model. And I know that we have already received a number of emails from teachers who are ecstatic about this opportunity of having this program in their schools. So thank you. I also want to make this announcement, and Mr. Mosier, before you go to this next slide, I'm inserting something here. We have 130 students who have applied for 200 available slots for summer internships that are paid. And we want to make sure that this is a competitive process. So we want to make sure that our students know that we are very committed to that. That's a significant increase from last year. But our ultimate goal is, as we pursue this goal of wanting all of our kids to graduate with market value assets, as we begin to build out this new strategic plan, one of those ways is to have internship experience. And so we're committed to offering paid internships, and we will be looking forward to getting those 200 slots filled. And then I'll have an opportunity to speak to students along with staff when we onboard them, I guess, later on in this month. So thank you, Dr. McMahon, for leading us through that process. Finally, earlier this week, we released the post-entry plan, which takes a close look at the things I've learned since I got here and since I've arrived in August, and what we will do with the input provided by thousands of people across the county. It's available online at www, and you can see it here, .ahcps.org/post-entry plan. And we are in the process of getting copies to our county library branches. This is just the first part of an ongoing conversation. And what I've learned from this process will be used in the creation of our new strategic plan. I also want you to notice the title of this document, Belong, Grow, Succeed, because I think it represents what all of us need to be about. Our students and staff need to have a sense of belonging first and foremost. Only then can we help them grow, and only when we help them grow can they succeed. Madam President, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bedell. Okay, so that brings us to section 5, consent items, award of contracts.
I motion to bundle 5.01 through 5.07.
Second.
Okay. So shall we vote on bundling?
Ms. Ellis,
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell,
Aye.
Ms. Shawheim,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Mr. McGrath,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay. Dr. Bedell.
Madam President, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education authorize the award of contracts dotted in consent items 5.01 through 5.07.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Seeing no lights?
Miss Ellis,
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell,
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim.
Aye.
Ms. Dent.
Aye.
Mr. McGrath.
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, so as moved in our original amendment, in the amendment to the agenda tonight, we will be hearing item 6.04, I think it is. 6.05. Ratification of negotiated agreement between the Board of Education and the Association of Educational Leaders, AEL. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Dr. Bedell? Yeah. Yeah. I don't mean to interrupt. Yeah, okay, there we go.
Madam President, no, I was actually looking for it in here for some reason. I can't find it. But Madam President, at this time, we will have the negotiated agreement between the Board of Education and AEL. We will have Melissa Ross, who will present this item.
Yes, good evening. My name is Melissa Rawls, and I am the Director of Employee Relations. To Dr. Tobin, Dr. Bedell, and members of the board, the negotiating teams for the Board of Education, and the Association of Education Leaders, also AEL, have reached a tentative agreement for fiscal year 2024, subject to your approval. In brief, the summary of changes as agreed upon by both parties include, but are not limited to, the following: a transition to a pay band structure, which will become effective July 1st, 2023, which will result in no loss of pay to Unit 2 employees. All Unit 2 employees will also receive a step equivalent and a 6% cost of living adjustment. The 4-day work week will continue from June 28th, 2023 to August 8th, 2023. The negotiating teams worked very hard this year to reach an agreement that serves the best interest of Anne Arundel County Public Schools, Unit 2 employees, and supports Unit 2 employees' commitment to AACPS students, staff, and community. I would like to give special recognition to President Tracy Ahern, Chief Negotiator Ryan Sackett, and the entire AEL negotiating team for their dedicated efforts this year in FY24 negotiations. On June 2nd, 2023, AEL ratified this agreement, and I respectfully request your approval and ratification of the noted summary of changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we have questions, Ms. Ahern, would you like to make any statements before?
Good evening, esteemed members of the board. I stand before you as Tracy Ahern, the president of the Association of Educational Leaders, to express our gratitude to Dr. Bedell and the Board of Education for their unwavering dedication to making Anne Arundel County Public Schools competitive among other counties in the region. We commend Dr. Bedell for his focused efforts on elevating Anne Arundel County Public Schools and working towards ensuring that our educational system meets the highest standards. The commitment shown by the leadership driving Anne Arundel County Public Schools towards excellence is truly commendable. On behalf of AEL, we extend our appreciation to the Board of Education for providing steadfast support to Dr. Bedell in his mission to enhance the competitiveness of Anne Arundel County Public Schools. We recognize the importance of collaboration between the board and the superintendent in achieving this shared goal. Together, we can create an educational environment that empowers students, teachers, and staff to thrive. As we move forward, AEL eagerly anticipates engaging in collaborative discussions concerning the Unit 2 pay bands and how the blueprint for Maryland's future will impact compensation. It's crucial to ensure that our dedicated administrators and coordinators are fairly compensated for their exceptional work and contributions to our students' success. By working together, we can create a compensation structure that attracts and retains highly qualified professionals, fostering an environment conducive to optimal learning outcomes for our students. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Ahern. So I see a light from Ms. Schallheim.
Just at the appropriate time, I have a motion.
Okay. All right. I see no other lights. I just want to say thank you and congratulations. And Dr. Bedell, did you just want to read the official recommendation? Yes.
I would. Thank you, Madam President. I recommend approval of the ratification of the negotiated agreement between the Board of Education and the Association of Education Leaders.
So moved.
Okay, seeing no lights. Ms. Howell?
Miss Ellis,
Aye.
Miss Corkadell,
Aye.
Miss Schallheim,
Aye.
Miss Dent,
Aye.
Mr. McGrath,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, the superintendent recommends the personnel listed on the attached sheet be promoted and/or appointed as discussed in executive close.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, seeing no lights. Ms. Howell?
Miss Ellis,
Aye.
Miss Corkadell,
Aye.
Miss Schallheim,
Aye.
Miss Dent,
Aye.
Mr. McGrath,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, item 6.02, personnel. Dr. Bedell?
Madam President, the superintendent recommends that the board approve the actions as stipulated on the attached sheets.
So moved.
All right, seeing no lights. Ms. Howell?
Miss Ellis,
Aye.
Miss Corkadell,
Aye.
Miss Schallheim,
Aye.
Miss Dent,
Aye.
Mr. McGrath,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
and Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Policy revision, second reading, item 6.03, opening and patriotic exercises, code IKA. Dr. Bedell?
Madam President, this is the second reading for this policy. 12 comments were received during the 30-day public comment period and have been included in the meeting materials. I will pass this over to staff member Grace Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Good evening, Dr. Bedell, President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, and members of the board. For the record, Grace Wilson, Legislative and Policy Specialist for the school system. As Dr. Bedell said, this policy is on second reading after being posted for a 30-day public comment period. Those comments were sent to you in your meeting materials. As a reminder, the policy is being amended to clarify guidance to schools regarding opening and patriotic exercises within Anne Arundel County Public Schools. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on this policy.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Ms. Schallheim, I see your light.
Yes, thank you. So I do have a question regarding the new text under C position. Was that also because of state changes to state law or to abide by state law?
No, that language was previously included in the regulation at the request of a board member. It's being added to the policy to promote clarity.
Okay, so to follow up on that, are we also considering rooms like the welding lab and like the kitchens at Cat North and South, or the greenhouses and spaces like that? Are they considered classrooms?
The policy doesn't define what a classroom is. I would assume a classroom is any room in which instruction is held for the purposes of this policy.
So my only concern is that in the construction labs and in the kitchens and in like the welding spaces, I just would worry about threat of fire. Like, is it appropriate to display the flag? I understand that they should have the flag in the room, but the display of flag is where I am a little hung up on, because I just wonder if those spaces would be considered appropriate spaces. And they are, if instruction is being done in those spaces, I assume that they're being defined as a classroom.
Yeah, I guess to answer that question, I would say that, I think we have a responsibility to figure out a safe area within the classroom to make sure that the flag is posted. And we would work with our faculty, with our building principals, or even if we have to bring operations in to ensure that it's in a place where we know that it will not present any type of hazard. So necessarily see that as a potential area of concern from the administration side.
Okay, I wonder if it'd be more clear to, at the end of that sentence, maybe say as appropriate or as applicable or something like that, how that would be received by staff.
It's a policy decision that it's up to the board to make. If you feel it's necessary, we could certainly add that language. I don't feel it would conflict with state law, which requires us to provide a flag to each classroom.
Well, I'm thinking, so if other people have other questions, let them go, and then I may or may not have further thoughts on this point.
There are no other lights on
Okay.
this, so.
I just wonder about those spaces and how that would fit in with the instruction and you know, in a kitchen where there's cooking surfaces and heat. I just wonder about that a little bit. So I just wonder if I should move to add a comma at the end of that sentence and put as appropriate, and then you know, maybe throw it back to you for the regulation part of it to lay out those.
I mean, I guess I would assume
Because it says display.
with the kitchen. I mean, I know there are eating spaces where you're not having to cook, and so
Not in the Cat North kitchen.
there's not a space where the
It's not an
students-
eat-in kitchen. It's
And then,
it's a cooking
but then I
line.
know there's a place where they have to get instruction, where they have to sit at their desk.
Yes,
so
and
that's where it would be
that's
displayed.
and that's fine.
Yeah,
So then
yeah.
the kitchen and the welding space wouldn't be considered a classroom for the purposes of the definitions and this.
Well, yeah, I mean,
classroom
but
as
those
policy.
those classes generally are connected. You can come up here and
Oh,
speak on
thank
this
you.
one.
Thank you for helping me out. on
Yeah.
that.
I'm going off of prior experience in other districts
appreciate
with the
it.
classroom setup.
Maybe I'm reading this too literally, but Dr. McMahon will help me
No,
out.
you're completely correct, Dr. Bedell. There's always a classroom space associated with a laboratory space, especially in those CAT centers.
Okay,
So the
great.
classroom space would have the flag, and the laboratory space would not need to have the flag.
Excellent. Then I have no further questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I see no other lights.
Okay, thank you. This policy will be back on third reading at your June 26th meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Wilson. That brings us to item 6.04, reappointment of the Board of Education of Anne Arundel County Ethics Panel member. I believe this is something that we have to bring as a board. Ms. Schalheim, you have a light.
I have a motion when appropriate.
I see no other lights, so please.
So I move to, oh, well, I just lost my words. To extend or to reappoint the requesting member of the ethics panel.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Are you laughing? Oh, when appropriate.
Everybody okay down there? I see no other lights, so Ms. Howell.
Ms. Ellis,
Aye.
Ms. Schalheim,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Mr. McGrath,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
Ms. Frank,
Aye.
and Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you. That brings us to section 7, for review, award of contracts. Are there any questions, concerns? All right. That takes us to section 8, public comments on non-agenda items. The same, I will not read the commentary over again. I think that will be longer than the actual public comment. So, but it holds for this. So I would like to call up for public comment on non-agenda items, Ms. Ruth Roberson, Ms. Carrie Gillespie, and Ms. Kim Prada. I hope I got all the names right this time.
Thank you.
All right.
Good evening. I'm Ruth Roberson again. I would like to take my 2 minutes to address just some of the arguments and accusations that were made at the board meeting on May 24, 2023, regarding the display of flag policy. I'm very concerned and disappointed that there's such a radical and vocal contingent of public school teachers who are vehemently pushing for ideological agendas that are anti-parent, anti-child, and anti-reality. The rhetoric and berserk behavior displayed by the teachers who spoke is concerning, since they are in the presence of young, impressionable children all day. I'm appalled at the behavior that was displayed and even encouraged by one of the board members. Coughing and name-calling to shut down, silence, intimidate someone from the opposing side. This is not the first time.
Please don't call out board members.
I'm sorry, but I didn't. There was someone. I didn't name anybody by name.
All right, please go forward.
This is not the first time strong arm tactics have been used. One of the speakers from the last meeting is responsible for creating a patently false defamatory hit list claiming she knew 600 racist, transphobic, homophobic people. She presented it to a county council meeting and pushed it to children at schools to embarrass them and their parents as if it were fact. People on the list merely liked or repost articles related to a specific incident with a teacher who was a controversial teacher. The latest attempt to scare parental rights supporters is to name them as hate groups, which another of the speakers that day was allowed to spew. I would like to point out that the glaring difference between one group that fought to keep schools closed and kids' masks now fights to usurp parental authority and introduce sexually explicit topics in schools. Compare that with parents who wanted kids in school and they just want transparency of curriculum and all critical race and gender theory out of classrooms. The absolute bias and hypocrisy is gobsmacking. Just tonight, this committee praised itself for being a huge part of the Annapolis Pride Parade. What does that have to do with education? Are pro-life and Christian marches supported for the staff, students, and teachers who believe in these ideals? No, they are not. Please do not lecture us about inclusion and diversity when this body blatantly picks winners and losers. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gillespie?
I'm Carrie Gillespie, a mama bear of 4. Before I begin, I want to thank the board members who reached out to me with their concerns about the conduct that was displayed at the last meeting. Normally, I prepare my remarks before this board to be logical and analytical, but tonight I'm speaking emotionally about a history of unacceptable conduct before this board that has left me seriously contemplating if there is a safe space for my family and others like mine within AACPS. At the last meeting, my fellow moms and I were berated, attempted to be silenced, and concerned for our safety. But as a mother, I was horrified that many participating in this shameful behavior proudly represented themselves as educators. I want to stress my children have had amazing teachers here at AACPS, and as a daughter of a former teacher, I will always advocate for great educators. However, this loud and belligerent group, who as parents and students watched, were cheered on and photographed by one member of this board from her seat, provide parents with a huge cause for concern.
Again, I think that it's obvious who they're talking about. I think she's
It is,
trying
because
to.
it was you.
Yes,
Yes.
and it was before the meeting.
And it was
Please.
unacceptable conduct.
Please.
It was unacceptable conduct, and you're not supposed to be engaging with me. You're an
Point of-
elected official, and I'm
Okay.
supposed to be a
Point of
everyone
order.
elected
Stop,
official.
everybody.
My goodness.
Point of
Stop.
order that you're engaging with me.
Okay,
I'm allowed to engage with you.
Oh, but I can engage with you, my elected
Please.
official and representative.
Order. Thank you.
Have you ever tried?
I have,
Could
and
we-
you've ignored me.
Wow.
Please. Finish your remarks, Ms. Gillespie, and then we will move on.
Thank you. However, this loud and belligerent group, whose parents and students watched and cheered on, as I said, by this board, have left us asking exactly who runs AACPS. When adults bully, taunt, and berate adults in front of their bosses, what are they doing behind closed classroom doors? Can this board, who cannot keep decorum to allow for concerned parents to express our First Amendment rights, guarantee my children's safety in classrooms with these educators? This group and some on this board are against the policy of taking divisive flags out of classroom, claiming these flags promote inclusion and safe spaces for all. Do I and my fellow moms look like we feel safe and included? What are the safe spaces for diversity of thought, the ability to discuss and debate issues, key factors of fostering growth and education? Our conservative children know that classrooms with these flags are unsafe spaces for diversity of thought. And where was the outcry from these same educators regarding the decline in educational metrics and learning losses following school closures for our students. If only their passion extended beyond flags to the core reason we have our children in schools, to educate them. This board should be aware that I've heard from many parents that they're afraid to show up to these meetings because of the way that people like myself and the moms that are here with me this evening have been treated. And they're also afraid their children will be ostracized in school classrooms if they show up. I want to end with a quote from Dr. Bedell's post-entry plan that I feel is applicable here. If we're going to become the great school system I believe that we can be, we have to create a true sense of community where students see themselves as belonging in the space they occupy, not needing to adapt to someone else's space. To do that, we simply need to be more accepting, and that starts with the ability and willingness to hold simple conversations. The aspect of applying equal value to those with differing opinions has been hard for some to adjust to, but it is necessary for progress. We can't talk about everyone belonging if we don't really mean everyone. The only flag that stands for and includes everyone in this room, as I said at the last meeting and in all of our school buildings, is the American flag. Thank you all.
Thank you. Ms. Prada.
Hi, good evening. Kim Prada. I'm here tonight to support Policy Code IS display of flags. The culture wars that we're currently experiencing as society are clearly prevalent here in AACPS. Those of us who don't promote certain ideologies have been publicly ridiculed and accused of being bigots, homophobic, and a hate group right here in this boardroom just for having a different approach is how we want to raise our children. We are parents that feel that these ideologies are chipping away at the innocence of our children, promoting racial divide, and are having a negative impact on the lives of our families. To many of us, it feels very one-sided here at AACPS. While some claim the flags in question are harmless and welcoming, these flags can also be in direct contrast with others' moral and Christian values. I've witnessed firsthand what can happen to someone if they disagree with the other side's beliefs, and it's not safe, nor is it welcoming. Children who might embrace the meaning of Blue Lives Matter, Christian, or Gadsden flags are not equally represented. All classrooms should be a safe space for all students, and we can't talk about everyone belonging if we don't really mean everyone. Flags do not keep our students safe. An environment in which they can thrive does. There are already too many distractions in our classrooms, and we desperately need to return the focus to academics. We've all seen the most recent test scores. Even NAACP has called on state and local leadership for action, saying our education system here in Maryland is intolerable. We don't employ our teachers to push their political views or ideologies on our students. That's not their place. Their place is to teach the approved curriculum, period. This policy is nothing more than a common sense effort to keep our schools neutral on all issues. If we remove all controversial flags, only allowing the United States and local government flags to be flown, that is when and only when all citizens, students, and teachers are truly united and represented here at AACPS. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. What? Okay, so that brings us to a motion to enter closed session.
Motion to enter closed session.
Well, what, it's over here. Yeah.
Point of order, we have we still have 6.04, reappointment of the Board of Education.
Yeah, we already did that.
Oh, you know what? Oh, the ethics panel? Okay.
Yeah, we did that.
I don't know. I mean, I even commented on it. I guess okay. Having a moment.
Okay.
Madam President, I move that the board go into closed session to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on a legal matter and to conduct collective bargaining negotiations or consider matters that relate to those negotiations.
Second.
Did we review the contracts stuff too? I mean, we had consent, but did we actually move 7.012 as well? Because I only heard the movement of 6.04 in the official approval of the agenda.
Yeah,
Did we do everything?
Did we do it all?
Yeah,
Okay.
he
Okay, I was just confused on that because I kept hearing about 604, not the other. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. We had the motion, we had a second to close, and do we have consensus to close? Okay, thank you. Good night, everyone.